and it was actually rather fun. I know you're surprised. I'm surprised as well. No, so we played another of the Dawnforge Company games, the game that I'm DMing, and we've been really kind of getting back into it. It was kind of a slow roll getting back into the game, doing a lot of RPing and everything for 2 sessions. It'd been actually a while since the players had anything to fight, but this time they knew they were going to be fighting. They came up across the entrance to get into the battle dwarven city of Kern. They were asked to do a simple favor for the city of help clearing out this mine of its Behir problem, and so they get through the mine, and then they're trying to kind of discover what happens. They're looking around the carts and everything, and then they are suddenly attacked by these Behir coming out of basically the woodworks. Now, the fun thing about this was the Behir battle, like, was pretty intense. Actually, I was surprised. The power the Behir have in their breath weapons and even in just their regular attacks was fantastic. But you had a lot of the Dawnforge Company using a lot of the control tactics, which was a lot nice. Was really nice to see. So, like, the really neat thing was even Faf, the little Fey dragon, who hasn't gotten to do too much, he ended up coming in big in the very first round of combat because the Behir rolled really well on his initiative and he got to go first. And that breath weapon is sick, nasty. It dropped two of them like that. So instantly we had two people down. Uh, and then, so I think it was our druid, Zephyr, the tiefling druid, and Mesnos, her rat folk companion, ex demon sort of thing. But both of them down like that. And then so Faf flew in and used his Euphoria breath because he's a little Fey dragon. Now it has a super low DC, like it's like a DC of like 13, but the Behir failed its saving throw even with a +4. So that left the Behir euphoria'd for a round. And then the sorcerer, played by my brother, Vicer, he used Flame Wall to put a kind of like a flame wall towards the back of the Behir to try to like not only burn it, but also keep it kind of focused towards the main tank, the Barbarian, who was doing ridiculous damage. He rolled like 3 crits in the combat, just ridiculously absurd. And with his axe being made of dragon bits, he got bonus damage from the axe because the axe is semi draconic conscience because it's made of dragon. He's dragonborn. There's a whole thing we got going on there. He got extra bonus damage on the axe's latent ability to do a smite because the axe is full of rage, just similar to our barbarian, but um, dragons of Behir are natural enemies. Like the Behir were actually created by giants to fight dragons. So the innate disgustingness from that he felt, and same with the. That's another reason why the Fey dragon attacked when he normally stays back and is kind of more. You guys got this, kind of from the backs. But one thing I did, I almost killed the Fey dragon on accident because he ran up and tried it again because he was feeling bold, and it didn't work. And then the Behir repositioned to do his electric breath to hit him and the Aarakocra rogue. Now, the electricity would have like damage would have like been triple of poor Faf's health, and he would have just been fricasseed like nobody's business. But the rogue, he'd made his evasion dodge, and he asked if he could take some of the damage, and I figured because he has fast hands and because of how small um, Faf is, I said he could use his reaction to pull Faf into him and take some of the damage for him. So Faf was still knocked unconscious, but the Aarakocra saved him from certain death of getting just fried. Um, so that was kind of neat. That was kind of fun. Um, having so many people go down, and then the sorcerer ran up and made so they defeat the first Behir, it goes down, and then they the sorcerer runs up and he tags the axe wielding insane dragonborn barbarian to make him invisible. Before he can run back, though, that's when the Behir appears, and everybody had been holding tax and spells because they had one round to get ready for him. Everybody looses their spells and everything like that, and the unfortunately with the invisible, it was greater invisibility, so the barbarian was still invisible. So the Behir charges the only person not kind of hiding or in cover, which was the sorcerer, who got chomped and squozed, knocked unconscious instantly. It was a pretty intense battle. Um, but that gave the barbarian an opportunity attack, and so with that, and our poor rogue could not hit to save his life. So really, I feel like looking if I was looking at it balance wise, the insaneness coming out from the barbarian probably made up for the lack of damage coming out from the rogue. The rogue did a lot of cool things, but he just couldn't hit with his arrows, which is strange because normally he's one of our more accurate, more reliable sources of damage in the game. So that was actually pretty interesting to watch how the dice and everything were kind of working out for everybody. But Druid did this really cool thing. She flew up the air and then became a giant constrictor snake and fell on top of the Behir. She took the fall damage because she was 30 feet up, so it was 3d6. But she also put the force damage was also on the Behir because she landed on top of him, and so I thought that was kind of a fair way to do it. If you want to get the drop damage, you're gonna have to take the damage from the fall, unless she would have changed into something like stone or something that would have had immunity to bludgeoning damage. But I don't think she has access to any of those forms quite yet. But she drops on, and then so I just have this really cool visual of a giant boa constrictor and a Behir kind of like constricting and fighting, and super cool imagery for my own brain. It was interesting. This time we had our players piloting the other two characters. So our barbarian was also in charge of our cleric. Or yes, our cleric, this Triton cleric named Unawatale, who I did the one-offs with. She wasn't able to make it that night, but so we had him piloting her, and then I've given Mesnos over to the players. I've stopped playing him, the little rat warlock. I've given him to the players, so the players will do what they will with him now that he's more solidified in his character and what he's doing. And everybody knows they can ask me for motivations, how Mesnos is feeling, and how they should act to that, which they actually did this time, which was really cool. My rogue player who was playing him, Mike, he asked, he made sure he asked if like how Mesnos was feeling, and Mesnos was feeling really bold and angry because with Zephyr down, he was going to get in there and he was going to do something about it. So he came out of hiding and did some fun stuff. Um, so it was kind of interesting to see how they managed to use these two characters for not only they actually used them pretty effectively, using never really not forgetting about too many bonus actions or anything like that. Um, and then they using the minor things for like using bonus action healing word to bring somebody back up to most of the time it was one. It was really weird. They were rolling a lot of ones for healing, which was kind of sucked. They burned through so many potions that which is something I as a DM was hoping to get them to burn through a few of them, not as many as they went through, but I was just hoping because they've had these potions for a long time, and I felt like they were getting this nice little stockpile, which was going to make it hard to balance encounters. And even this one was supposed to be a super deadly encounter. And now, if both Behir had attacked at the same time, I feel like that would have been too much, and that would have been a truly just TPK situation. But having them attack one at a time, um, depending on how fast they finish the first one, of course. If they hadn't finished the first one in that amount of time, because I had the other one, it was going to be 3 to 4 turns away, depending on if they lured the Behir out, if the Behir was called out, and depending on basically how they started the fight. But with the Behir starting the fight, I was decided it was going to be 3 turns until the other Behir got there. They managed to finish the first one off in time, and then the second Behir came down and just got his shiz wrecked. Unfortunately, this I was thinking about it. Like this is one of the troubles of playing on a weeknight. We only get really 3 hours, which is closer to 2.5 once we get everybody set up and everything. And I'd really love it if we could do longer sessions. It was one of the things I felt this time, like I really want to get them into the dwarven city of Kern, and like so that was because, but like the political situation in Kern, which they're now discovering, is pretty contentious for anybody who's not a dwarf. So since they have no dwarves in their party, um, and they had to do this favor and everything like that. So I use this to kind of set up with between this and the guard to set up kind of the idea that Kern's going to be a different sort of experience from them that they've had so far. The first two cities, one was like going through a renaissance and it was kind of more of an artsy city, some place that didn't really care too much about who or what you were. The other was like a trading outpost, like half orc established city that was kind of meant for outsiders, and so they did really well in that town and got along pretty well. But this next town, it's going to be pretty hard for them, unfortunately, with none of them being dwarves. And they'll find out kind of why later. So it was just overall kind of an interesting game. It wasn't too bad actually. I was surprised that the Behir weren't more of a challenge to the players, but I'm kind of glad that they weren't. I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to totally kill them, and I came close to straight up murdering the Fey Dragon, which was really nerve wracking as a DM. Like a DM, you never want to kill something either you weren't intending to or would not serve the plot or be significant. Like for Faf to have died there would have been really sucky because I have a plan for Faf, of course, and then that would have thrown everything that I have for that just completely out of the rails. And I was just having the Bahir act as normal, and I was like, ah, crap. But luckily, we didn't have to worry too much. Overall, I would say it was a really fun night. I really enjoyed the game, and at the end of it, everybody was trying to kind of figure out things for themselves. They were looking around at the Bahir and everything. And our Dragonborn had stuck his axe, this really very dragon axe, into the blood of the Bahir because he found out previously that his axe absorbs certain types of magic. And as he stuck it into the Bahir blood, it started to absorb the blood and this blue kind of brackish blood that came out of the Bahir, and he's just keeps absorbing it. And then I was like, okay, roll a d4. You take that much damage. And then as it went on, he kept doing it. It was a d6, a d10, a d12, and eventually a d20. And then luckily he didn't get too much damage from it. It was actually really low rolls. He was luckier last night than I think I've ever seen him be at this game. But uh, so he after the roll the 20, his new silver eye, the energy of the axe, its eye had turned blue, and then his eye after the d20 also turned blue. And so he's not sure exactly what's going on, and so he was spending the night meditating on his second watch, and I rolled a percentile. It means I rolled a d10 and two d10s, one that's marked in a 10 spot and one that is marked with just a single one. So like if you see here, there's the 0302, and then one that's just regular. Now I rolled these, and I had a plan here. So a 15 or under, he would receive information. A And if it was 85 and above, he would receive negative information, negative consequences for trying to tamper with this. Now, since he got, oh, I just dropped a dice. I rolled the percentile, and he got a damn 2. And so I figured I had the 2 was the super unlikely situation that he actually is able to reach out and contact whatever had been happening and whatever was changing for him. And he made it. Like it was, levels of success. And so with him making that ridiculous throw and actually, you know, succeeding, he, he had this new voice because he's had two voices in his head so far. One, the Shadow Dragon Shanoth, which he made a contract with, and then another, which was he didn't know what it was, but he had seen Shanoth fighting with a silver dragon in his mind. Now he hears a deeper, more rumbly voice, thunderous, some might say, and that voice says, "Ah, we found the focus." And then he goes into a little bit more detail of like the focus, but not enough to make our Dragonborn exactly comfortable with what's going on. And so with that, he's like, okay, and what's the name of the silver one? And that's where we ended. So our Dragonborn knows there's something that's going on with his ancestry that is calling out, and he now has, because of the things he did. And it's really funny because he unintentionally, I think, built something that I was planning on. I kind of nudged few things here and there by giving him the right resources, but I really love the idea of the Dragonborn and their innate magic in their blood. Because dragons having dragon ancestry can make a sorcerer have magic out of nowhere. So I thought a barbarian who doesn't necessarily have like a learned magic or anything like that, a dragonborn would have a kind of special connection with these different elements. And so So I had this idea. If he concentrated on his draconic elements, if he made the pact with the shadow dragon, and if he had his axe made of from the dragon bits, then I had this idea that's coming together now, of being able to access different bloodlines of the dragon ancestry, and he's slowly learning about exactly what's going on, and he'll find out the exact story reason later, and it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited for that. Everybody, I kind of give away to the players that I have been planning these kind of D100 situations for them. Like our sorcerer, he's already had his, and he rolled really well too. It was part to do with his wild magic, and well, hi, buddy. There, cat coming in. And so with his wild magic and the magic font that they had released, he was the only pure caster when that happened. So it affected and over amplified his magic. And for days he was having like tingling hands because he uses they call them mage hands. But like and he just felt strange. And then eventually it came to a head, and there was negative consequences for that one too, and then positive. And he rolled insanely well as well, so he got extra spell slots as opposed to, and for a sorcerer, that's a huge deal. But if it would have gone the other way, his wild magic would have gone off all the time, and it would have gotten ugly. But luckily, that did not happen, and so that's kind of exciting. Um, so I was really happy overall with the way everything worked out. My druid and rogue now know that they have things coming up that'll be big roles that I'll have to do behind the screen and see what happens. Um, so it's going to be good. I'm really excited to play our next game. We'll be taking next week off because I'll be out of town. I'll be no streams next week because I'll be out of town and I don't have a to go streaming rig. So Walter, you're gonna have to keep the people entertained. Say hi, Walter. Hi, Walter. All right, go down. All right, I'll let you go, buddy. But overall, it's been really interesting. After playing as a 5e and then DMing it, kind of thinking as players do, and it's going back to DMing, it's really hard to open your brain back up into the scope of all of the things that you have to build. Like before, it was just what needed to be done, and now I'm like, oh, it's really hard because now it's so hard to be like, yeah, well, they'll never come across that, or that's not going to be important. They'll never care, but they will, and they do, and so you need to. It's really hard not to like have apathy when it comes to doing this, and I find like that's been the hardest thing for me lately is not give in to that apathy, and that's why I think I've been making kind of bolder um, story decisions is to force myself into kind of committing to these finishing these storylines. Dogs just knocked something over. The joy of puppies. So with that, I kind of thank you guys for hanging out for this little kind of campaign diary. I'm kind of enjoying doing them. They're a lot of fun, and we'll probably keep doing them, the day after D&D. But I'll go and stop the stream here and go and get started with probably an Apex Legends. I think it's about time. So we'll be right back with some Apex Legends, and yeah, thank you for watching so far.